Hello and welcome to today's short strategy video. My name is Rihanna Ridman. I am an infant and early childhood mental health consultant at Children's Resource Center in Bowling Green, Ohio. Today's short strategy is how to deal with disengagement. So what is disengagement? So this would be when a child is, not really engaged in meaningful play, either when they're playing by themselves or when they're playing with other children. So maybe this child becomes discouraged or, easily kind of gives up on a task. They're just not really interested in completing, or if the task becomes challenging. Or this could be a child who might be easily distracted. So they're just not really engaging in the specific activity that is either in front of them or that they were doing. They just kind of are, not really interested or not staying focused. So one thing that we can do to deal with this disengagement would be to prompt them. So if a child is, maybe feeling discouraged, if their blocks fell down and, maybe they're not really building with them anymore, we can just prompt them and say, maybe you could put the orange block on top of the blue block. What do you think? And just kind of prompt them, give them an idea or just a suggestion of what they could do next. If it's a child that's, maybe not really entering play with other children, maybe we could prompt them and say, oh, this block looks like it could go in this spot, and then, call on the other child and say, what do you think? And kind of bring those two children together with an activity. Another thing that we can do is offer choices. So just giving two positive choices for a child that's maybe disengaged, if they're not really focused, if they're not engaged in the activity, we can give them two positive choices to help them with that activity. So maybe the activity is painting, and they're not really they don't really want to paint, or they're preoccupied because they want to go play in block center, or maybe we're at home and they want to go watch TV instead of do an activity that you've put out for them. So we can offer them two choices. Do you want to paint with the orange paintbrush, or do you want to paint with a blue paintbrush, or do you want to use watercolors, or do you want to use finger paints, or something like that, to kind of make it more fun for them, to get them engaged in that specific activity. The next thing we can do is provide them with small steps. So sometimes children can become overwhelmed with a task. So maybe the task is just too big for them. So we want to break it down into smaller steps. So one thing, if kiddos are having a difficult time in the bathroom washing hands, maybe um, they're not really doing what they're supposed to. So we want to engage them with this activity and make it easier for them. So we give them a sign, or having those specific steps labeled for them. So first we turn on the water, then we get our hands wet, then we use soap, scrub our hands, we rinse them clean, and then we dry them off. So this way, children are able to follow these specific steps. They're engaged in that specific activity, and they know what they have to do next. Another example is, asking a friend to join play. So giving them small steps. First thing that you do, you walk closer to the other kiddos. You can sit next to them or stand beside them. You can see what they're doing. Then you can ask, you can use your words, what are you playing with, or what are you doing? And then I can copy what they're doing. I can play the same thing next to them, or I can tell them my idea. So just giving children small steps, that way they can figure out what it is they need to do next. Another thing we can do is describe, name, and acknowledge feelings. So if a child is maybe feeling discouraged, or if they're feeling frustrated that activity that they were doing isn't what they wanted to do, we can just describe that for them. Maybe you're feeling sad or you're feeling frustrated. This isn't what you wanted to do today. Maybe you wanted to, have a dance party or sing a song instead of play at centers. Or, maybe you're feeling bored because we painted yesterday too. So just kind of describing and acknowledging those feelings for them. I see your face, you have a frown, maybe you're feeling sad. I get sad sometimes too, if, I painted yesterday and I want to do something different today. So we're just acknowledging that for them. Another thing we can do is encourage them. So we want to notice what children are doing or what they're saying. And this is different than praise, because we're just kind of describing for them what it is that they're doing. So, you put the orange block on top of the red block, and that kind of gives them like a commentary of what it is that they're doing, so that they have that initiative to keep going. Another thing that we can do is be flexible. So sometimes, we have to adjust our schedule if the children, they're not engaged. Maybe at circle time, if kiddos are really wiggly, they're just not really paying attention to the story, or they're not following along with directions. Sometimes we need to be flexible and offer a different activity. So in that instance, maybe they're feeling really fidgety, or they need to get their wiggles out. So we can kind of stop that circle time or center and offer, to get those wiggles out. So maybe we're going to do some jumping jacks, or maybe we're going to stand up and sit down, or maybe we're going to spin around in a circle and then sit down, or just moving our seat. Maybe we switch spots with the person sitting next to us. So that way we can, kind of release that energy, get those wiggles out, and then we can refocus on what we were supposed to be doing. Or, maybe sometimes kiddos are feeling sad if something happens. So we want to just have that moment where we can acknowledge those feelings and then move on to the next thing. So these are my resources. You can email me at rihannar@crcwoodcounty.org. The tips I got from this is from this book here. It's called Behavioral Challenges in Early Childhood Settings by Connie Jo Smith. And this just provided some tips for disengagement. The strategies come from Devereaux Center for Resilient Children, and please like us on Facebook at CRC Infant and Early Childhood Connection. Thanks.